May 24th, 2010 meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Esposito. Here. Mr. Manero. Here. Mr. Hanna. Here. Chairman Howland.
Here.
Mr. McCann. Here.
Is there anyone present who is, is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
Yes, sir. We have 2 speakers signed up tonight. When your name is called, you may approach the lectern. You will have 2 minutes and 2 minutes only in which to address the committee. Please conclude when the timer sounds and exit through the back of the chambers. Thank you. Susan Albright, you may come forward.
Good afternoon. The economic health of Monroe County will suffer beyond repair if an industrial wind farm is constructed in Lake Ontario. I've passed around a brief risk-benefit overview, an article from ABC News titled "New Wind Farms in the U.S. Do Not Bring Jobs," and some photos of wind turbine catastrophes. I've also sent you emails with links to the horrific economic and environmental experiences of other U.S. counties that support my statement. A review of wind farms around the world almost unanimously supports that there's no payback on these. The money goes to the developers. Nearly $2 billion from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act has been spent on wind power to only partially power only 2.4 million homes, while 80% of that money has gone to foreign manufacturers. South of us in Cohocton, where onshore turbines have destroyed the lives of residents, they are working to get their properties reassessed at a lower rate, and some have already succeeded. If this occurs along the Lake Ontario and Irondequoit Bay shorelines, tax revenue from some of the more highly taxed properties will drop. If NYPA truly believes industrial wind farms are such an asset, why are they not being built on Long Island, where Mr. Kessel and many state politicians live? Face it, this entity is likely the biggest abuse of our tax dollars ever created. Add to that the potential destruction of the Great Lakes. Nothing short of a no vote by Monroe County legislators will send a clear message to NYPA and Mr. Kessel that we, along with Jefferson, Oswego, and Wayne counties, who have already overwhelmingly vetoed his proposal, are wise to his schemes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Eiselhard.
I'm speaking instead of Al. I thought that he had canceled.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Paul Johnson, Associate Planner of the Planning and Development Department, will now give a brief overview of the 2011-2016 Capital Improvement Program as it pertains to the Human Services Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everyone should have a copy of this document, the County Executive's proposed 2011 to 2016 Capital Improvement Program. I want to take just a minute to describe how this program is prepared and then very briefly summarize the planning and feasibility projects which are of interest to this committee. This process starts in the fall when we ask departments to prepare projects for consideration in the Capital Improvement Program. This year we were very aggressive with our operating departments in giving them a target reduction of 20% in all capital spending from all sources in an effort to reduce our total capital improvement program and also to even out some of the spikes that we've experienced in previous programs and stabilize funding over the 6 years. I'm happy to say that where we were able to actually exceed that target and achieved about a 24% reduction over last year's 6-year program. The program was reviewed by an internal committee that's headed by the Deputy County Executive and includes representation from a number of county departments, including budget, finance, planning and development, engineering, transportation, and law. The county executive then submits her initial program to the county planning board for their review and comment and recommendation. They held 3 public information meetings in early March on this program and submitted their recommendations to the county executive at the end of that month. And now the county executive, in turn, according to the county charter, is now submitting for the county legislature's consideration this capital program. Under the charter, you're required to hold 1 public hearing, which hopefully you will schedule at your June meeting and conduct the hearing in July, and subsequently, again, hopefully adopt this capital program. There are no funding approvals that are associated with your action on this program. That doesn't occur until you consider the capital budget, which is the first year of this 6-year program, 2011, which will be submitted to you as part of the operating budget towards the end of the year. The one section that I would like to just spend a short time on is the planning and feasibility project, which you'll find on page 13. These are monies that are budgeted in each year of the 6-year program to prepare feasibility and background studies for capital projects and to help determine the detail of the project so final cost estimates can be have in hand for inclusion in future capital projects. The amounts for the planning and feasibility funds have been reduced from last year's program by a total of 22%. And again, this was in line with the target reductions that we had set. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman, either now or when you get to the item on the agenda.
Legislator Esposito.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Paul. I also sit on the county planning board, so I've been through the capital program process again this year, and I'd like to commend Paul and the staff, the administration, for doing a very thorough job. I appreciate their efforts. Of course, there's still things I'd like to see different, a little less borrowing, a greater focus on the debt service, and an increased use of cash capital, though it's nice that we have some now. I'm curious through you to the administration if there's been any consideration towards using the capital program to help better track the projects that have already been passed in previous programs but are ongoing.
Through the chair, perhaps our Director of Engineering could provide a more detailed answer, but the capital program, as it's described under the charter, is a prospective document. In other words, we're looking at the future 6 years. There is, I believe, documentation in the county operating budget as to the status of, I think, virtually every capital fund that is in existence, which will provide a history of previous capital projects.
Thank you, and I am aware of that, and through you again, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. For example, the beginning of every section with each department, at least some of them, list like a status of previously programmed projects. Noteworthy, for example, is the Water Authority. We passed last year the inclusion of the Eastside Water Treatment Plant as part of our capital plan. It's not even listed in the status of previously programmed projects. It's my request that you consider as a department including at least the most noteworthy projects in the future in that section, if not expanding it to talk about where that project stands. Most of the frustration that comes with the capital plan, because it's usually done very well through this process that we're passing tonight, comes either after it's passed and there's project delays or there are changes through implementation, or as we've seen with the last-minute addition to projects to the program that come out of nowhere even though they've been in the public realm for a long time. Things like the Crime Lab and some of the MCC components for Renaissance Square come to mind. And so I guess this is a recommendation through the chairman to the administration that in future capital programs we consider making this a more holistic view of all the capital projects the county is undertaking and not just some of the more routine projects that we know we have to do and we do a good job of, admittedly, a very good job of dealing with the infrastructure in this county. So I'd like to say that. And through you, Mr. Chairman, if I may continue, you mentioned the planning and feasibility item, which is reduced. and I didn't say this at the beginning, but I do commend you for reducing at least the short-term project load in recognizing that we're in difficult times. We have budget problems and we have an economy that can't necessarily sustain our tax burden. So I think that is commendable, as well as with the planning and feasibility number being reduced. Can you provide at some point in the future, through writing, a list of projects that were funded in 2009 with that line item from the capital plan?
Through the chair, yes, we can do that.
Okay. I believe those are most of my comments. I would like to commend you, and I intend to vote for this today. Thank you very much for the presentation and for your work.
Any other comments or questions? If not, we'll proceed. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the April 26, 2010 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk?
Referral 10-0152.
Moved by Legislative Hannah, seconded by Legislator McCain. All those in, I'm sorry, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? The item carries.
Referral 10-0153.
Moved by Legislator McCann, seconded by Legislator Hannah. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The item is carried. Is there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no further business, the May 24th, 2010 meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee is scheduled for June 28th, 2010.